is Rory O'Toole.
And my name is Matt Schultz.
And this is How to Be,
the podcast where we discuss ancient wisdom, modern hacks, paperback self-help books, and pithy platitudes,
in the hopes of figuring out the best way to live this one precious and wild life.
Do you love to curl up with a good book? Or do you just pretend to love to curl up with a good book? Join us as we discuss the reading life. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Roar. Your décolletage looks nice today.
Thank you. It does, doesn't it? It looks so milky, like it's never seen the sun, which it hasn't.
That's good. The sun is our enemy.
Oh my God. You have no idea. The sunscreen I put on yesterday to go sit in the shade in a park.
I never leave the house without sunscreen, and that's new.
And who's that because?
It's because of you. But
the best advice I ever gave.
And the most impactful. Like, you got me, I never, even if I'm just running out to grab something, I do not step foot outside the house a cloudy day at night. No, I'm just kidding. Moon screen.
Yeah, that'll be a thing for sure soon. I do wonder if the sunscreen craze is overblown.
Really?
Well, of course I do. Yes, but I'd rather be overly cautious.
Yeah. Well, you and I were both, we don't want to age.
No, I have a deep fear of aging. Ever since I turned 35, it's been really hard for me to turn 35.
I know. Well, you've been telling me that. You're like, you don't even understand. Because I'm
34.
We have a bit of an age difference.
We do. We have a big age. It's kind of like a May-December friendship here.
Yeah, I'm only 34. So Rory's kind of like my big sis or my mom.
More like your mom.
Yeah. And you've told me, because I'm obviously frightened of aging also, which I think is natural. But you've told me it gets worse at 35. The fear amps up.
For me, it's gotten so much worse just because I guess I didn't realize how attached I was to the identity of youth and to have no shadow of youth left in me. No one, you have to be really old to consider me young.
No, I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people would still consider you young. Oh, wait, let me turn off this thingy.
I don't know about that. And it definitely has to do with biological clocks too.
Sure. But okay, so yeah, now this was something I started processing a while ago. I think when I turned 30, which was I actually think young is one of my deepest held identities. Deeper than Jewish, deeper than gay, deeper than
I think
American.
It is too. I think it is too.
Because that's kind of first of all, it's the first thing people are beaming at you when you're born. Because the main thing about a little kid is that they're little. Think of the world as portrayed in Rugrats. It's very binary. There's babies and there's everyone else.
I know. And then everyone else was actually younger than us now.
Yeah. We are those adults now. Stu Pickles and that mom.
Dr. Lipschitz.
Dr. Lipschitz. The mom. I'm the weightlifting mom now that I go to the gym. You're Cynthia's mom, like a powerful businesswoman.
Angelica's mom. Although I would like to be that doll's mom too.
Cynthia. But yeah, it's, listen, it's frightening.
Yeah, it is frightening. And, the other day I was really in communion with the idea that I'm going to die one day. How sometimes it really hits you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beyond It's beyond. It is beyond. It's the great beyond.
I know. Can you believe someday one of us without the other, you and me?
I know. We've talked about that before. One day we're going to get a call.
Ah, and like
Matt
we might,
is dead.
it might be the most tragic call ever, or we might be at the age where it's like, no, like,
Yeah.
oh, because I do think it eventually when like the majority of your friends have passed at a certain age,
then it's different.
Not like,
it's not shocking, but it's like a different kind of sadness. It's like a real deep loneliness, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying it's not painful, but it's like, we all know, but yeah, just a world. Oh my God. It's so, terrible. And so what scares you more? Not being, the idea of not being, unbeing, or the moment of death?
The moment of death is very scary. I'm very scared about getting older and being scared to die. Because you know what? If I was given the chance to live forever, I wouldn't take it. Like, it's not that I want to live forever. It's that I don't want to die.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's an amount of years that you'd feel comfortable with?
I hope so, but I have no idea. I hope that when I'm like 80, I'm like, it's been a good life. Take me whenever.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you could live till 200, you'll be like, most of that time you'll spend, like, these middle years will stretch out. So it's not like you're going to be like elderly for all of that time.
No.
You'll be 40 for a really long time, 50 for a really long time, 60
and
for
everyone else with me, or I'm special.
No, you're special.
No, count me out.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Now, what about 110? Do you want it?
I'm taking a really long time to think about it. I'd be more comfortable with 105. It's my dream weight and my dream age.
And it would be plenty of time to read all the classics.
Exactly.
Or would it?
Or not. And then that's the point of this life, right?
Yeah, to read all the classics. So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about
not fear of aging, even though that is sort of the subtext of everything humans do on Earth, right?
Actually, we could do a whole episode on it. I could really dive in. We are talking about the canon today, and by the canon, I mean the literary canon. All the books we should read, and if there's time enough, and why we should read those books. Should we?
To all the books I've ever read. What are you reading right now?
So right now I'm reading the canon. I'm reading the canon. I feel like epitome of the canon. It's called 10 Kids and Counting.
Wait, are you reading Moby Dick?
No. I'm reading The Odyssey.
Oh, that's right.
Which is where
canon right at the start.
Where it all begins, baby, is the Odyssey. I mean, even more so than the Iliad, which comes first, I guess, chronologically.
Yeah, I feel like the Odyssey is probably more popular because what is an Iliad? I know what an Odyssey is.
Oh, yeah. What is an Iliad?
I don't know. That's why I'm not reading it, but I don't know the Odyssey either.
Why is it called the Iliad?
I have no idea. It's a turn off.
I just took it for granted. Well, also the Iliad's about a 10-year battle. Like, I don't really care about that. But the sojourn to home, just the idea stirs the heart.
Now, is there joy in reading it, or is it just?
I'm glad you asked that. There's a lot of joy in reading it. I think I was saying some phrases to you the other day from it, and you said they were beautiful.
Yeah, the wine dark sea.
The wine dark sea, the rosy fingered dawn. There is joy in reading it, but it's not the same joy as reading a cool girl lit written by a cool girl about a cool girl who I can fantasize about being. Like the urge to turn the page is there when I'm reading it, but the urge to pick it up is like a little bit less present.
Yeah. And where are we? How many pages and where are we within the pages?
We're at like 270 and there's probably 500.
Okay. And here's a question. What are you going to read after this?
Well, let me tell you this. Okay. I would love to talk to you about this. First of all, the introduction, I read the whole introduction and it was amazing. It was an amazing introduction. I got the translation by Emily Wilson, and she basically wrote this 100-page introduction that is essentially a class on the Iliad. So that, or not the Iliad, on the Odyssey or the Homeric poems. Okay.
Mhm.
And it was so helpful and interesting because I think one of the things about reading the classics is it's more fun when you're reading it in an academic setting. Because
Yeah.
how do you know that the pickle in Ethan Frome means fertility?
Did it? I thought the pickle dish symbolized their marriage.
Oh, see, in high school we learned that it meant fertility.
Different approaches between the high schools.
Anyway, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up with a psychic who told me my grandmother put a pickle over my head and that meant fertility.
Oh.
This was a long time ago. Anyway, so the introduction was really helpful. What I want to read next is I'm like, should I read Ulysses?
Don't do it.
Why? Have you read it?
I've tried. It's a slog.
Yeah.
It is a slog. And that's what we're talking about today. Are slogs worth the slog? Because you know what? I've been feeling tempted lately to go back to Les Miserables.
Oh my God. Now talk about a slog.
It's kind of funny because like when you read a book that's like a slog and you don't want to read it, like there are certain books, they're almost like these bad relationships that you keep coming back to. They're like the Mr. Big of books where you look back on, you're like, why didn't I like that? You know, like
you're like, I love the musical.
I'll like it again. Yeah, it's like I keep waiting for it to be the musical. And or like, you know, as thinking about like I abandoned it right at this point where it completely abandons its own narrative and is just like a tour of France. And I was thinking about that recently and I was like, that's actually cool. You know, so now I'm like feeling a little drawn to it again. I'm reading something relatively easy right now.
What are you reading?
So I finished David Copperfield, and now I'm reading this book called Four Lost Cities. And it's a nonfiction book about four lost cities.
Oh, that is kind of, well, that's not for me, but I'd love to hear you tell me about it. But you glazed over reading David Copperfield, extreme canonical work.
And it was a reread.
And it was a reread. See, I don't know if I would ever reread. Rereading feels wasteful.
I know, but now I really want to reread also Middlemarch because it's so great. The thing is, rereading is really joyful, can be really joyful. Rereading the first half of David Copperfield was super joyful for me. The second half was a slog, but I just felt like, I don't know why I felt like it's not like so that I could have read it. I've already read it. So I don't know. I just felt like I couldn't move on to the next thing until I finished it.
That's the thing is I actually think the best readers and the most prolific readers are willing to give up and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think so too. And I think you got to know when to drop something. And sometimes I do, but in this case I didn't. I felt like I wasn't settled on ending it, so I felt like if I moved on I would have kept floating back and forth and been in a blurry zone between books. Yeah. And I wanted to really close that chapter and start something new.
You, I feel like, really are more likely to drop an audiobook than a book.
Oh my God, I am,
because you listen to audiobooks. Yeah, you listen to like 4 chapters of an audiobook. Because who wants to listen to 12 hours of the same book? Because the listening experience is not the reading experience. You know?
So I volunteer with this woman, an elderly Holocaust survivor, and she has very, very bad vision. And she talks a lot about how she misses reading. and how
Oh.
she used to read all the time. And her house is full of books, and her daughter also talks about how she used to read all the time. And it's very interesting. So she was talking about how she can't read anymore, and it's sad. And I was like, what about audiobooks? And I was like, do you want me to like read one of your books to you? And she was like, no. I knew she would say no to that. I knew it was like a little too cute of an idea, that she wouldn't like it. She's very like, wouldn't be into that. But I offered. And she was like, it's not the same. When you read, it's in you. It's not coming at you. And I thought that was a good point. And then I was like, what about something like this? And I showed her my Kindle, and I made the words very big, to the extent that there was like 5 words on the page. And she was like, no, you don't read words. You read pages. And I thought that was also very wise.
Oh, wow. She has an interesting relationship with reading.
Yes,
And
she does.
one that I think is very insightful. Yeah, absolutely. When you're listening to an audiobook, I have a really hard time listening to audiobooks. I've tried to do it for this podcast because a lot of the books we read are books that I want to have the knowledge, but don't really care about the experience. And so I treat it like a podcast, or I try to, where I'm like multitasking and listening. But it's not the same. I can't follow along because I'm not fully present. Like, it's not in me.
Yeah, it's interesting. The audiobook needs to be a certain level of simplicity in order to follow it. But at that level of simplicity, it stops being interesting, which is why I abandon it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the uncanny valley of the audiobook.
Yeah, one time, speaking of being in you, when I was younger, and I remember telling this to like a classmate of mine, I was like, you know how when you read, your voice is like that of an old British man? Like your voice is like, I guess C.S. Lewis was like reading to me at all times. She was like,
you still hear her voice?
And she was like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And now I don't hear it anymore, but I did for years and years. It was always an older British man, like basically reading to me.
No, I do not hear a voice. That's very interesting. I feel like I've tried to like read things about like how to be a speed reader before.
That to me is the antithesis of what I'm trying to go for with reading.
Well, I do always end up abandoning it because it's very joyless.
Yeah.
But part of it is that you stop articulating the word in your head. You're seeing the word, and it's like purely a visual symbol. And I think the rest of us are, on some level, articulating it.
I mean, I reread passage. I'm someone who can't really skip a passage if I don't understand it. So I am a slow reader for more challenging works. Like Moby Dick, I would like forget, during all those whaling chapters, I'd be like, wait, what? I got to go back and read that chapter about the narwhal. I didn't absorb enough information about it, as if I'm going to remember it. Like, what is the point of doing that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I'm not going to remember it.
What is the point of reading? So let's ask that in a broader way, because I think you and me are both people for whom books are a source of pleasure and edification, but for whom they're also an ambition, something undertaken not for its own sake.
Yeah, they're
that we
both.
feel a certain obligation towards.
Absolutely.
And for me, sometimes they're both of those things simultaneously, but sometimes they're not together. Like this book I'm reading, and it's not joyful. I'm reading it to have read it. Whereas this book is joyful, and I'm reading it for my own self-interest.
What about the book you're reading right now?
Purely for me. Lost Cities fills me with wonder. It truly does.
And there's nothing about it that you're like, I want to have the knowledge of, or say I have the knowledge of.
No, there's probably a little bit of that too. Actually, like I think something about, I always wish I was more interested in history. And lately I've discovered that I actually am interested in history if I find particular angles on it.
That's kind of like how I feel everyone could be. I think that people think of history as like really boring, especially if it's military history.
Yeah.
Yuckers.
Or
Or
like,
the
yeah,
royals. Some people don't care about the
exactly.
royals. And that's what like we're kind of taught a lot in history is rulers, monarchs, and battles or wars.
Yeah, military history of the world. So I do feel like uh I feel like I'm eating vegetables right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is good knowledge to have, but I'm truly like eager to read it and fascinated by it. So I guess it's a mix. This one's a mixed. I'm not really someone who's reading beach reads. So most of my books are either I'm like it's vegetables and I like it. It's yummy vegetables or it's vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, like Moby Dick was straight vegetables for me. Like, and I really wanted to like it because everyone loves it. Like, people are like, this is the best classic ever. And I love whales. But you know what? I didn't connect with it.
Well, maybe for someone who loves whales, a book about trying to kill one isn't,
Well, that
the
was
right
the
thing.
other thing. I kept being like, oh, this is sad. But then I was like, oh, stop being such a libtard.
Yeah. Save the whales. Yeah.
So why do we
So,
have this ambition to read the canon? Like, what to what ends? It's like we're not being graded on this. It's just a matter of identity, I guess. I want to identify as someone who has read the canon, but to whom am I identifying as that? Because it's not like anyone's going around asking me. I don't work in I mean, I actually do work in academia, but I'm not an academic. No one will ever ask me if I've read Don Quixote.
yeah, I think like for me as a writer, like there are certain essayists who
Mm.
are able to like deploy quotes and show their erudition in this way that like definitely makes me jealous. And I'm like, I wish I had the ability to do that.
Well, you've got
And
the Bible down, which is classic.
I know, but I could have the Bible so much more down. It's like I don't have
Mm.
it down enough. And also like the thing is like I actually can do that. I can quote books, but here's the thing. The second you've read a book, it's no longer impressive to you. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
so the ambition to have read the canon, no matter how much you read of the canon, it remains the same size. It's undepletable because honestly, there's just so much in it,
There
you know?
is. There is. And I mean, of course, the canon also is ever expanding, especially now because it was so Western centric and now people are trying to like make it way more inclusive. Now we have, things fall apart's in there.
Yeah, you've got to read Things Fall Apart, others, presumably. The poetry of Rumi.
You got to read the poetry of Rumi. You got to read Giovanni's Room.
Yeah. Um, you've got to read what's it called? Beloved.
Oh, you got to read Beloved.
I didn't like Beloved.
Me neither. And I feel terrible because people love it.
I know.
And
Maybe
it's
the
about a
bluest eye.
ghost.
I know. It is about a ghost. That was kind of cool though.
It just didn't I didn't feel in the book. That's another thing about it. Sometimes with the canon is sometimes I don't feel in the book.
What does that mean to feel in the book?
Like I
Like,
get the emotion, I get the dialogue that's happening. Like I see where the characters are coming from.
yeah.
It's like the difference between like seeing it through a clear glass window versus like a foggy window where like
Mm-hmm.
the connection is not strong for me. I'm like, where are we? Why are we doing this? Beloved was really that way for me.
Yeah. So people say sometimes about books that they transport you to another world. You open up the pages of a book and you're coasting down the Mississippi River with Huck and Jim, or you're flying on a magic carpet over the Arabian desert at night. Those are always, I think, the two examples.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel transported by books?
The book. Okay, can I tell you a book that I think we both felt transported by because the voice was so strong? Never Let Me Go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love that book.
It was
That
so
was pure enjoyment.
that book was like extreme voice to the extent that like when I wasn't reading it, and the same thing with you, I think, was that like I was thinking in that voice.
Yeah, I needed more. I needed more of that voice. And yeah, that I listened to as an audiobook. Oh, such a great book.
It-
Dancing Around, Never Let Me Go.
um so rarely do I feel transported, I would say. I would say the voice has to be very strong. It has a lot more to do with voice than characters.
Yes. Yes. I love a voice driven book that will, Virgin Suicides also
Yes.
cast a spell, set a mood, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, we were kind of talking about this before. Like, I, so I feel this way, and you do too, about books. Like, there's like, I should be reading more. I feel guilt about it. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
source of guilt in my life.
Yeah.
Um, I do not really feel that way with music or
Oh,
with movies. Like, I have not like Kurosawa, like I don't know who that is. Feluce, who's
Fellini?
that? Yeah. Like movies, I am like not on top of. Like movies, it's like
Film is
Sex and
really
the
what
City
you're talking
1,
about.
Sex and the City 2, The Wedding Singer. That's all I got.
um
Pleasantville. Me and you are going to watch Pleasantville soon. That's my favorite.
yeah, definitely don't. I mean, I don't feel that way about film at all. I'm not really even interested in movies that much or music that much either. Music is like what you're into in your youth, I feel like. If you meet an adult who's keeping up with music, wow.
But what about, okay, this sometimes makes me feel insecure. I have a few professors who are like very passionate and knowledgeable about classical music and opera.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, isn't that elegant and sophisticated and smart?
It
Isn't that
is.
smart?
It is smart as hell.
Yeah. And sometimes I've considered
Or being into
leaning
jazz.
into jazz. I've considered leaning into musical theater.
No, that's
Like,
not the same level of elegance at all.
I think no, it's not the same level of elegance, but I do have a natural like for it, and I thought it might be a cute to cultivate.
Absolutely not. There's enough gay guys who are into musical theater,
Really, I feel like it's
and they're the worst kinds of gay guys.
Okay, so what about me getting into opera?
Opera is way more elegant.
Okay, I really think I don't like how it sounds though, so that's a problem. That's a barrier.
Well, why would you like how it sounds? Sounds terrible.
I did
I feel
watch the
like
Sex
if
and the
you're,
City where she goes to the opera and sees Big and has to run out. She's wearing such a cute dress in that
she is
scene.
that little sparkly dress. No one gets that dressed up for the opera, which is a shame.
That seems like it would be the only point, if you ask me.
Yeah. Like Frasier's putting on a tux to go to the opera. And I think if you wear a tux to the opera, it would be rather
It'd be
strange.
embarrassing
Yeah,
at
you'd
this
really
point.
stand out. Yeah. I have to say, I think if you like opera, you have to be knowledgeable about music.
Like about how music works.
Yeah. I don't think it's for the casual listener.
Wow. Okay. I had this realization the other day
Hmm.
where I was thinking about how there's no way for me to express a tune verbally without singing it,
Oh, okay.
or even to describe it. Like I don't really like I don't know how to like like is that note higher than this one? I can't even really tell. My ear's not sensitive enough. So all of a sudden I realized that I'm illiterate. There's like a realm of language in which I'm utterly illiterate. And it's
Well,
like the realm of music.
absolutely. I second that for myself. Like I can't Sam has tried so many times to explain what a key change is to me. And I'm like,
yes, I've watched so many videos about this online.
it seems like you're starting a pattern from a different point. That's like the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, I actually think that's what it is.
But I can't really, there's a difference between knowing how to verbalize it and knowing how to like listen for it and understand it, I guess.
Yeah, we're offering $1 million to whoever can explain a key change to us to the extent that we really feel like we understand it.
I mean, it's the same thing with math also.
That you feel illiterate. Do you ever feel like you wish you... Okay, what else? What do you wish you knew? Because this is connected to reading. Where do you feel like your knowledge is deficient that you feel like you wish you were erudite and educated?
Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very dumb about that. I mean, I'm reading the Odyssey, so that's helping like a little bit. But I feel like all the classic thinkers draw so much from Greek mythology. So that's important to know. China, ancient China. What's happening over there? I don't know.
Yeah,
the dynasties. I'd love to know the dynasties.
They were up to some amazing stuff when the rest of us were still pretty gross.
Yeah. Yeah, and also indigenous populations of the Americas were also, I have only the vaguest sense of that.
You know, there
also
is a
up to amazing
new
stuff.
book about that I want to read.
Oh.
Yeah, called, I forget, Indigenous Continent. Things I would like to know more about. The history of the Middle East.
Oh, that's a good. Oh my God, the Ottoman Empire. I would love to be knowledgeable about the Ottoman Empire. That is classy to me.
Same Ottoman knowledge I would like to know about. And like I think, yeah, also like the Roman Empire, you know, the Byzantine Empire, all of that.
Also, when I'm reading the Odyssey, I'm like, what was the daily, like, where am I? Like, what do these houses look like? Like, what is the daily life of like a Greek woman?
Well, I'm learning about that right now in this Lost City book.
They weave a lot?
Because one of the cities is Pompeii.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a Roman woman.
Okay.
In the year 70 AD, which by the Vesuvius erupted a mere 9 years after the temple was destroyed.
Wow, fascinating. All things lead back to the temple. But
same emperor, Titus.
But this is very different from what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about like 800 BC Greece, and you're talking about 70 AD Pompeii.
Yeah, what was the Greek? I don't know about that. I know, I kind of know. I've kind of learned in the last couple of days what the 70 AD Pompeii woman was doing. And
what was she doing?
She might have been a business owner.
She's a girl boss?
She's a girl boss. She might have had a taberna, a tavern.
Oh.
Yeah. She might have been a prostitute.
Also, she was a sex worker, you mean? Also a boss bitch.
Yes. I was thinking about the phrase sex work is work.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what does that mean? It's like you could also be like child labor is labor.
I mean, maybe that would work for them because it's like, yeah, why are we putting our children into making them do labor?
Yeah, it's like I'm not getting the point of the slogan, but that's another matter. That's for a sex work episode.
What's people who were like, these prostitutes, they need to get a job? I don't think of anyone thinking that.
No, I don't think that's what the saying means. I think it's saying like this is legitimate work that we should like.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying though too. It's like, oh, these prostitutes are such layabouts. They need to actually get a job. No.
Yeah, it's like this is work. Actually. I mean, obviously. Truly.
Okay, so there are plenty of people though who don't read, like they're not interested in it, which I find freeing. Yeah. Because I'm like, even if I didn't read, I would feel the need to pretend like I read. I think I would lie.
Yeah, there's a wonderful freedom to the person who doesn't read and doesn't pretend.
Yeah.
And doesn't aspire.
No, like they're like reading is boring. TV is on.
Yeah, I like TV. I mean, yeah, that's why like this, I mean, it's like the book is like dark chocolate.
I love dark chocolate. I would choose dark
Mhm.
chocolate. I know you don't believe me because you don't
And I
believe
like
all
books.
women.
There's a lot of books I like reading. But yeah, there's something, it would always be easier to put on the TV. Let's say
It's,
that.
yeah, let's say that. It's also like I'm just like constructing an identity of like little bricks of things I find interesting, whereas like some people don't really care about seeming interesting. And it's like, yeah, why would you care about seeming interesting? Who are you trying to impress in life? No one
I
is like
guess.
watching me and like being like, that girl right there, she just read the Odyssey. Wow. She's a
Yeah.
bird watcher. My God.
Well, this is why I think that the ultimate fantasy of the reader is is Rory Gilmore when Dean is like approaches her one day and he's like, "You're always reading. You're always
Yes.
so involved in your book." It's like that every little snot-nosed pseudo-intellectual kid walking around reading some big old book
My
is just
Yeats
hoping,
poetry that I used to read in homeroom.
yeah, just desperate for a hot guy to notice.
Yes.
Just the thought of him
Yes.
noticing.
I have this
And it's
vivid
like,
memory of walking down the street in the summer wearing the cutest sundress and holding a copy of Crime and Punishment from the library and thinking, someone needs to fall in love with me right now.
I know. And you know what? It never happens like that.
No man, woman, or child has ever said, I want to fall in love with someone who reads.
Well, okay. Uh, I think I have been like impressed by the books of a partner though.
And, it's such a bonus. So not the foundation of what I'm looking for.
No, you're right. It's a bonus. It's a bonus. You would forgive them if you like them, you wouldn't care
Yeah.
if the books were bad or if the books were absent even, really.
I think, yeah, part of me thinks absent books are better than bad books, actually.
I do want to be with someone though who's interesting and interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't want to be with someone who's not interested in things.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, like, what does it mean to be interesting? Like, haven't you ever met? I know we've both met people who are so boring and they have the most interesting life. Like, oh, yeah, I lived in
Yeah.
China. Oh, yeah, I speak 4 languages. And they've never had anything interesting to say in their life.
No, I guess I don't. Yeah, I don't care about being with someone interesting in that way. I care about being with someone who has interests though.
Yeah, like what kind of interests? Any?
Um, Let me think about that. So, yeah, like something that they're passionate about in this world.
See, as someone, I don't know. I don't feel passionate about a lot of things.
I met this guy once who he was French. He was a dancer. We went on a couple dates. And no, it's not his passion for dance that enchanted me. It was that in his spare time, like when he was cooking, he always had a flight simulator on his computer. He was like, "Oh
What?
yeah, he was really into planes and flying." And like his version of watching YouTube videos was doing flight simulations.
Okay. Yeah,
I thought that was
that's
very cute.
yeah, I mean to have a quirky interest like that basically. That's genuine.
Yes. And that's the thing. It seemed very genuine.
Not just
He wasn't
something he
like,
does
and
when
I
you're around.
guess I've always liked flight simulators. Just. And I like wanted to adopt it after I stopped seeing it. I was like, can I like start doing that? It's cute.
And then you were like, this is not authentically me.
Yeah, I didn't even try. It was like, I was like, I want to watch YouTube videos. But that's
Well,
not cute.
yeah, but then there is something to someone who like thinks they're so quirky. Like that is the most painful person to be with.
Oh yeah, that's a brutal type of person.
Ugh.
They're yeah, because it's like it's pathetic to spend your life performing on a stage when, as we have said no one's really watching. No one cares.
No one cares.
And so I had this amazing professor at Sarah Lawrence, Brian Morton. He was a writing professor, and before our workshops, he'd always give like a little sermon. A lot of times they were taken from like interviews with writers, and then he would explicate on it. So it was this interview with the writer, and the interviewer asked him, "What are you reading now?" And he said, "The biography of Muhammad Ali."
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Morton said, "This is a reminder to not get bogged down with the canon. Read what you're interested in. No one cares if you've read a biography of Muhammad Ali. The only reason to read a biography of Muhammad Ali is if you're intrigued by his life, which there are many good reasons to be intrigued by his life.
Yeah, there are. But you know what is actually interesting? Like that episode of Sex and the City where Miranda's really into biographies. I always thought that was a cool thing to be into.
Well, yes, because I think it's like there's something alluring about what's inaccessible to you. So like would never read a biography. The thought of reading about someone's life is so uninteresting to me.
It's truly one of the last genres I would pick up, I think, a biography. Especially a biography of someone still alive. Like Michelle Obama's biography, I would never like I'm good with the Wikipedia page.
I know, and everyone's reading it.
I know.
Becoming. An autobiography, I maybe I would listen to the audiobook. I'm sure it's like inspiring. But still.
But you know what? I don't read to be inspired.
No, nor do I.
But you know what? That's why I don't read a lot of self-help, because I don't want to be inspired by a book.
Like, okay, so I could read book after book after book about Judaism, Jewish history, Jewish philosophy, Jewish law. That would come really natural to me, and my interest in it is very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's what comes sort of natural to my reading, it like doesn't feel cool or interesting to me. I actually limit how many of those books I read, and I try to space them out with like novels and other things. I'm like even this Four Cities book, I was like, dare to read about ancient architecture that's not the temple. Dare. Yeah,
I guess I don't have I like cool girl lit, and that feels not interesting to me, and I have to space it out with the canon.
Yeah. And I was thinking the other day I should read more contemporary novels.
Yeah, I read the contemporary novels by all the cool women, and I really eat them up,
Yeah.
I'm not as keyed into it as some of our friends. Mm-hmm. Some of our friends really have their finger on the pulse of like the cool new novels coming out.
Yeah.
Whereas I only know like the top level, I
don't even know those. I only know A Little Life, which soured me on reading contemporary novels for the rest of my life.
That is not cool girl lit. That's not cool girl lit, though. It's not even written by a girl.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, you're right. But it's so not cool girl.
It's not cool girl lit. It's not My Year of Rest and Relaxation.
No, it's not that.
It's not Sally Rooney.
Yeah, when it comes to like book, like what I was saying about Emily Wilson's introduction, where she's talking about, the eagle symbolizes Athena, let's say. It's like, how much of that is real and how much of that is just the reader?
I think with things like that, they might know.
But what about with Edith Wharton?
Oh, and the pickle dish?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that it's like, yeah, that's not like, I think with the Greek mythology, it's like there's like a really specific symbolic language that might be being employed.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the pickle dish might just be like that's the way it's been understood by reading that book for a while. I think you're free to be like, no. But also it's like, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a little obvious. Sometimes those books you read in high school have those obvious symbols.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I mean, the great example, anything by Tennessee Williams.
Tennessee Williams
break the glass menagerie.
Oh, will someone put a screen over that line? You can see all my flaws in it.
The harsh light. Oh, I'm like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Why, that streetcar's named Desire. What a hackaroo.
Same thing with Eugene O'Neill. It's like the woman with the ether addiction giving a 20-minute monologue on the fog coming in over the water. Yeah, we get it.
We get it. It's ether. What is ether?
I don't know. It's like a
I
thing
want
you
some.
breathe.
It sounds nice. A fog coming in over the
Yeah.
water.
Why did old-fashioned drugs like fall out of the way? Ether. Good old-fashioned ether addiction, you know?
Yeah, no one's on ether anymore.
No one's smoking opium?
I think people might still be smoking opium. I knew some opium smokers back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
In
Isn't
a previous
crazy?
life?
In a
In
previous
1900 China?
life. No, in 2010's America.
I don't believe it. Really? Interesting.
Yeah. How much time should I be reading in a week?
I have no idea. I find that I probably read like 3 hours a week, but you read like 12 hours a day on Shabbat. You read all day, right? That's all you do?
On Shabbat, I read a lot. I read not 12 hours, but hours. I'm like,
So I think your whole week could be summed up in that day.
yeah, it's like, it's enough time to start and finish a book like the Four Cities book.
The thing about it is I cannot, incapable, not humanly possible for me to do any significant reading during daylight hours. I will fall asleep.
I know we haven't even talked about the narcotic qualities of books.
Like 2 p.m. reading is the worst time to read. Like I will, and like there are some people who can just spend a rainy day reading. Like that is opium.
I know. I would need to be.
I don't even need an anesthesiologist next time I go into surgery. Just give me my Kindle with the Odyssey on it.
Yeah. Oh no, she's waking up. Hold up the Kindle. Hold up the Kindle. Yeah. In these Shabbats, when I read a lot, I'm just book, sleep, book, sleep. I'm weaving in and out of consciousness.
Yeah. But if I read at night, so what I usually do is like I go into bed at 9, I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I read for like an hour, 40 minutes. And I could read for much longer. It doesn't make me want to go to sleep at night. What the fuck?
Meditation is also narcotic. How do you do that without falling asleep?
Actually, it doesn't make me tired, to be honest. Because I'm sitting up, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, lately I've been powering through my book sleepiness. Like I just keep reading. I don't put it down, and I'll just pass out sitting up with the book in my hands.
But there's like a certain point for me when I'm reading where I'm like, I'm not absorbing any of this. What is the point? Like, let's just.
No, I'm like hallucinating onto the page. It's kind of fun. I like it. Now, if you're going to go to a Halloween party dressed as a literary character, who do you dress as?
Oh my God, what a great question and a Frasier reference. Well, for book day in school, I dressed as Amy March from Little Women.
Oh, that's cute. I did a Holden Caulfield costume once, which is a cute costume because it's just like a prep school outfit.
And a hat.
And a red hunting hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a flap hat. Yeah.
What would you go as?
At this point in time, I don't know, maybe Adam from the Bible.
You go naked?
Just a fig leaf. Nothing but me naked with nothing but my ideas.
Maybe I would go as Carrie Bradshaw. She's a literary character.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you'd have to be like Candace Bushnell.
Maybe I would go as Rip Van Winkle.
Just take a nap.
Something
what
funny
is Rip
like
Van
that.
Winkle?
Is it John
the
Irving?
Book?
Okay. Is it a story? I think it's more of a story. Is it John Irving?
Like a fairy tale? It's John Irving?
Not John Irving. Irving. The word Irving is in there. Rip Van. It's early American. No, Washington Irving. There we go.
Do you think people will be reading Jane Austen in 100 years, or do you think we only read about 100 years back?
That's such a good question, because what book were we reading? I think we read a book or we were reading something for this podcast, and it was talking about time. And the guy was like, yeah, like in the hundreds of years, rock and roll music will be a blip in history and people will only remember the Beatles.
Yeah.
So I think the only one that they'll be reading is Shakespeare in 600 years.
Well, Shakespeare is like the only writer we read really from, I guess you're reading right now, the Odyssey. The examples of pre-19th century literature that we read that are commonly read are so scanty. And then 19th century literature, we're reading a lot because that was essentially just a century ago, but it's getting farther away.
It's true. We're so addicted to the novel. The novel is our main form of reading, and that didn't exist really before especially the early novel really sucked. The first novel was
the early novel did suck. The 1700s novel
was really
no one's psyched about reading it. It has no stance.
It's not even the canon.
No. But yeah, then you get into the 19th century and things are popping off. You know, you've got Tolstoy, you've got Dickens, you've got the Brontes, Austen, George Eliot. You know, good stuff.
Really good stuff.
It's like, do we read that because but like in the 1800s, for people in the 19th century, would they be like, oh, in the 1700s, you have great writing, but in the 1600s, it's crap?
No, I actually don't think so.
You think it's specific? It's about the novel reaching its peak form.
I do. Yes. I do think that there was like a type of person who thought reading in general was a waste of time and full of folly.
Yeah, definitely a lot of folly there.
Because you should be out like briskly walking or like doing needlepoint.
Well, I remember once when I met this guy who grew up in like an ultra-Orthodox home, and he was telling me that he wasn't allowed to read novels. And I was so blown away because, you know, we come from a world where any reading is virtuous.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't talked about that yet, but reading is associated with virtue in our world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like eating healthy and waking up early.
Yeah, the lust that Dean feels for Rory Gilmore is a chaste lust.
I know, how classy to love a girl who reads and just happens to be adorable.
Yeah, and then when she meets Jess, who also reads, it's like that's his redeeming quality.
Yeah, that's her intellectual equal. They can talk about, like, what kind of couple is like going out to talk about the Odyssey?
Yeah, they can talk about like Hunter S. Thompson, I think was their vibe. The Beats.
Yeah, as if.
They loved the Beats.
As if Rory Gilmore would read Hunter S. Thompson.
She reads it all.
But that's the annoying thing. It's like, can we have some discerning taste here?
I know, she has no direction.
It's like,
there's nothing there. Ugh, she's insufferable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when people
I don't like to join the bandwagon, but she is.
When people like all things, it's like that means you have no taste, I guess.
Yeah, you're not very interesting. And you know what? Rory wasn't, and that's why she crashed and burned in the reboot, you know? She had no fire inside of her.
Didn't see the reboot.
Yeah, well, she ends up going nowhere in life.
Why would they do that to that character? What were they trying to say, do you think?
Well, and then she gets, spoiler alert, and then she gets pregnant, which was, you know, supposed to happen at the end of the original series, but they had a contract dispute and they brought in other writers. So the original intention of the Palladinos who made the show was for her to get pregnant in high school, essentially. And to
after
repeat
college.
her mother's, you're right, after college. And to repeat her mother's fate. The whole plot of the show is about Lorelai trying to redeem herself from her mistake of getting pregnant, her original sin, with Rory's, by living through Rory and having her be successful, and then she doesn't. And you know, it's kind of a dark message. It's about being trapped. It's like Sisyphusian.
Yeah, is that what it's about? Like you're in you can't ever exceed your birthright?
Yeah, and also like there are like
Like
so many
why would that be
pregnancies.
why would just I know what you're going to say and that's a good point, but first, why would that be the point of like a lighthearted WB show? Why would they do
Because it's
that?
not lighthearted. It's actually dark. It's actually like Twin Peaks when you really think about it.
I don't know about that.
It's a dark show.
The la 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 music, interlude
I
music.
know. That's because it takes place in like a trippy dream. But there's all these pregnancies on the show. None of them are planned. It's all unwanted pregnancies. Pregnancy is destiny in Stars Hollow, and
What?
destiny cannot be escaped.
What is that? Why is that?
Even the marital pregnancies are surprises.
But what is the point of that? Like this woman who created the show is fixated with. Does she have children?
I actually don't think she does,
She's obsessed.
based on the hats she wears.
Yeah, she's obsessed.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what she looks
Of
like?
course I know about her
Okay.
hats.
They're giving childless.
Why such a weird strident obsession with pregnancies?
I don't know. I think that's what the show's about. It's a
It's
meditation
on unwanted
on
pregnancies, on using
unwanted
protection.
pregnancy. Yeah.
Is it she a shaker?
I don't know. And I definitely think that Stars, like the show, takes place in an alternate universe where abortion just doesn't exist.
Because no one considers it ever.
No one considers it ever. It's off the table. And yet all the characters are ostensibly liberal.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes place in an alternate dimension where only that one thing is different.
Yeah, because her friend gets pregnant, right? And has twins
Yeah.
out of wedlock? No.
First time she has sex after
In
getting
wedlock?
married.
Of course, because she like what is this obsession with like those early 2000s shows and like preserving some of the characters having to preserve their virginity till marriage, at least some of them.
Yeah, like
Like that is not a thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, there's this scene in Gilmore Girls where she's talking to Paris, Rory, and they're still in high school, and Paris has just had sex for the first time, and Lorelai overhears, and then she hears Rory saying that she hasn't because the time hasn't been right. And then Lorelai says to herself, I have the good kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the show is about.
Chastity?
No, about Lorelai working through her own feelings about her past through her kid.
Do you think the people who have written the show know that that's what the show's about?
Yes. I think it's a very sophisticated show, actually.
God, it just doesn't seem that way. It's like the greatest trick the devil ever did was make Gilmore Girls sophisticated, but you have to dig really deep.
I have a lot of Gilmore Girls theories that, I would be happy to divulge more of if anyone wants to hit me up after the show. I have one theory that it's actually all a dream sequence.
Well, yeah, that's a classic one. But this is the thing, is that people still talk to me about my name being Rory because of the show.
Yeah.
Like, I love the show. And
really?
I don't.
Like when they meet you?
Yes, just happened to be the other day. And I don't love the show.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say.
Yeah, just be like, yeah. I've seen
that's
it.
what I do. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. She's a character and I'm a person too.
Yeah, you're such different Rorys in my mind.
But we both read.
You both read, and you both play a big part in my life. Impossible to say who plays a bigger role.
Yeah. I have to say I've had less suitors interested in me because of my intellect.
Yeah, that's Sam didn't approach you one day while you were leaning on a tree.
No.
Reading
Nope.
Jane Eyre.
In fact, sometimes I say to Sam, don't you like it that I read? Don't you think that's cute? Because he gives me no feedback on it.
Yeah, it's like, give me a little feedback, please.
And he's like, sure. And I'm like,
Look
okay,
at you reading.
not cute.
Have you ever lied about like sometimes like people have texted me being like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "At home reading." And it's like,
No,
nope.
I've never said that.
It's like actually I'm at home watching YouTube. Stop asking me, people. Public service announcement. Stop asking me what I'm doing.
Who's texting you asking what you're doing?
Yoav, what are you up to? Reading.
Oh, you're lying to your boyfriend already. Wow.
The deceit begins.
Yeah. No, I've never really done that, but I'm definitely less and less lying about things like that, like books I've read, spices I use.
Yeah, who'd I say that to?
I don't know.
I said it to someone once.
You said it to like a group of people.
Yeah, I said I like to buy a new spice every time I go to the market. Just a complete lie. And just try it out. I've never done that once. Salt and pepper. And like I was so ashamed that the second I said it, I was like, I hate myself. Such a lame lie. Just go try a new spice, something that's a beautiful color that just draws me to it. I follow my intuition, and then I just try it out in a recipe or not a recipe because I don't use recipes. I just
No,
follow
not
my
this person. This person cooks barefoot,
intuition. Yes,
listening to like vaguely like world music.
world music. The pan flutes. We've got 24/7 pan flute in the kitchen. Is there okay, so do you have any guilty pleasure books? Because I've read some articles that have suggested that in an era when everyone's sort of proud of their bad taste,
Oh, what's some bad taste I'm really not proud of?
is there such a thing when people, like what's a guilty pleasure?
For me, I mean, I did read the Twilight books.
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing.
No, it's like really embarrassing for someone like me, you know,
When did you read them?
in college.
Yeah, it's not so embarrassing.
Okay. Well, then I guess I don't because that's not where my guilty pleasure lies.
Anything recently? No.
Book wise, I read The Vanishing Half, which is a little embarrassing.
What is that?
But like most people wouldn't consider that embarrassing. It's a contemporary novel that I would consider not cool girl lit and not canonical. So like, why did I read it?
Yeah, what even is the point?
It would be like the same as reading Little Fires Everywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
That wouldn't be embarrassing. It's just like it's certainly not impressing anyone.
I don't know. Yeah. Right. And I
Yeah.
didn't even enjoy it that much, so I don't know why I read it.
Yeah. An utter mystery.
What about you?
I read The Tale of the Genji recently and, just finished in one day, found it so fascinating.
I don't even know what that
So
is.
embarrassment. It's like the first novel. It's an ancient Chinese novel.
Oh.
Just kidding. It's definitely not a guilty pleasure, and I have not read it.
Oh. You're funny. You're being funny.
I was being silly. No, I can't think of a guilty pleasure. I'm looking around trying to find something.
Yeah, I miss when we were ashamed of things.
Yeah, I'm big on bringing back shame.
So that could be a whole different. We should do shame.
Yeah, we'll do a shame episode.
And talk about Brené Brown.
Yeah. The greatest trick the devil ever played was teaching us not to be ashamed.
All right, Matt. Well, what do you think? Should we be reading the canon?
No, read the biography of Muhammad Ali. Follow your heart.
Yeah, I completely agree. Forget the canon, but I won't.
I can't let it go.
I just can't stand the idea that one day I'll be at a dinner party with a bunch of intellectuals and they'll be talking about Don Quixote and I'll have to say I've never read it. The Man from La Mancha. Okay. As if I would ever be invited to such a party, as if I would ever want to go to such a party, as if This would never happen.
Yeah, so you and me, we're gonna have to keep tilting at those windmills of these great books.
It's like when Alexander Petrovsky had Carrie's friends over for
A dinner
dinner,
party.
and he thought they were such plebs. And it's like Carrie's never picked up a book in her life.
Never.
She writes a sex column that they run next to ads for penile implants.
I know, but she has a whole other elegant thing going. Spending an afternoon reading Australian Vogue, smoking a cigarette.
It also annoyed me when Steve is like, do you know Billy Joel? And he's like, who is this Billy Joel? It's like, Alexander Petrovsky probably knows Billy Joel personally because they were probably at Studio 454 together.
Yeah, come on.
Like, shut
Petrovsky.
up.
Yeah, it's lame.
Anyway,
Petrovsky's lame.
he was actually, I thought we should have given him another chance, but.
Oh, really?
I thought
He
that
slapped her.
he accidentally, come on.
You're right. But and now she's going to get back with Aiden. Can you believe that?
No, it's sick.
It is sick. It's upsetting. All right. We got to go.
Right, gotta go.
Too long. We got to go.
We got to go. Bye-bye.
Got to go read. Watch TV. AKA watch YouTube videos. All right. Bye-bye.